Most English-speaking countries were colonized
by the English.
By the Brits, right?
Yeah. So Francophone, which is the French.
Now I could just say second.
Bus.
In terms of getting the lion's share.
Wakachukua West Africa.
West Africa.
Senegal.
Burkina Faso.
Morocco.
Morocco pia?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Ghana.
Yes. No, Ghana was English.
English.
Yeah.
Nigeria English.
Also English.
Okay. Guinea.
And
Angola.
No, Angola was a Portuguese, sorry.
Portuguese.
Yes.
Lesotho
was English. Because it was inside South Africa.
Okay.
Tumesema Burkina Faso. Niger. Mali.
Gabon. Ivory Coast.
Yes. Right? And then there came the Portuguese.
I would go
baya lakini.
Like you go deadly.
Sana.
So akacheza tikitaka wapi?
With Angola,
Portuguese.
Yeah, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, Sao Tome Principe.
Adi? Sao Tome
Principe, also Portuguese.
Okay.
So they had a, and then the Belgians came in.
Where?
Wakachukua?
Democratic Republic do Congo.
Boss.
Peke yake?
A big
country. Let's pick one.
Yes.
Like in India itatuwa motion.
Kabisa.
You decide.
Which was 500 times its size.
Guy, the Belgians.
Congo.
Wakachukua Democratic Republic of Congo. Saizo hakukuwa kume Congo Brazzaville.
No.
It was one.
It was one. Divided by the mighty Congo River. So they took it. And then they went in there. And then they started taking over the Africans.
Guy.
Forcing them to kill elephants and transport ivory.
Yes.
Down to the port of, it was called Port Noir.
Port Noir,
yeah.
Meaning?
The Black Ports.
The Black Port.
Yeah. And that's where they would export this ivory all the way to Europe.
Yeah.
Through the Atlantic. It was easy to get to Europe from the Atlantic.
So which means poaching was happening.
Oh, yeah. Oh, come on, man. Big time. And villages and natives had to have a quota every month of how many tusks they could produce.
Guy.
And if they didn't produce the tusks,
they were punished.
They were punished by having their hands chopped off.
As villagers.
Yeah.
So tuseme kama uko kwenyu banana raini.
Bas.
Mna commit that sisi kama wana kijiji wa banana raini.
Yeah.
Every week.
Let's say 60 tusks.
Every week.
Yeah.
Hizo ni elephants. 30.
Yeah. Na tukikosa
mikono yetu inaenda.
Short sleeved or long sleeved?
Depending on what? What determined kama itakuwa short sleeved or long sleeved?
Depending on who was cutting you.
So we have a lot of Congolese when
those days.
Yeah, because
remember it was those days.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then later on, of course, they got the independence in 1960. Sure.
Yes.
Because there was
1960.
There was that wind of change. Remember, Ghana was
the first one
in sub-Saharan Africa
in 1958. 57.
Close. March 6th.
Yeah, and Kwame Nkrumah spoke and said the independence of Ghana does not mean anything if the rest of the continent
is
not independent.
Yeah. But the wind of change was sweeping across the continent.
So kakuja Congo 1960.
60.
Wakapata
Nigeria pia walikuwa 60.
Yes.
Cameroon, I think, also around that time. So Congo got theirs, and they had this prime minister, this very charismatic prime minister.
By the name?
Patrice
Lumumba.
Na sio PLO.
Lakini I think hiyo jina PLO ilitoka huko.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Patrice, he was a Pan-Africanist.
Pan-Africanist.
Patrice Lumumba.
It was amazing. I mean, he really wanted to change the Congo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so he was a founding father.
Yes, literally.
Like Kwame Nkrumah.
Yeah.
And
one of the things,
Julius
Nyerere. And Haile Selassie.
Haile Selassie, Ethiopia.
Yes. This was the time of the Cold War.
Yeah.
which meant Russia, USA, they were, or rather Soviet Union then, it wasn't Russia.
Yeah,
it was USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. They were, you know, they were all competing for resources around the world.
Yeah.
And Africa was a huge place for resources. In fact, in the Congo, because Congo is so rich with minerals, the uranium that was used in Nagasaki,
manufacturing bombs.
Yes, in Nagasaki, it came from the Congo. It came from the Congo. Congo has just about
all sorts
of minerals. From copper to cobalt, to gold, to diamonds, to coltan, which is used in every cell phone on the planet.
Which means if Congo shuts her doors to foreigners, dunia inaweza ikaanguka. Yeah?
And don't forget the forests. It's got the biggest forest cover,
Congo forest,
on the planet.
Miti inaibwa sana, logging, illegal logging inafanyika sana. Wanasema minerals found in Katanga, you know Katanga area,
province, in down south.
Yeah, kuna copper, as you said,
cobalt,
zinc,
sijui
ingine inaitwa cassiterite, kitu kama hiyo, manganese, coal, silver.
Have you typed in uranium?
Uranium. Kuna uranium.
You see, Congo is so rich.
Uranium.
So anyway,
radioactive chemical elements of the actinoid series of the periodic table. Atomic number 92
is uranium.
Is an important nuclear fuel.
Back to Patrice Lumumba.
Yes.
So he started leaning towards USSR.
God.
And the Americans didn't like it.
Just the same way size Ubazenga Burkina Faso and a lean towards Russia. So the Americans were pissed off. And one of his assistants was a guy called Joseph Désiré Mobutu. Joseph
Désiré Mobutu. That was one of his, like top aides. Right?
Yeah.
So the US decided, you know what? Guy.
AIDS,
So they decided this guy has to go.
Yes.
And they got some guys obviously on the ground. They kidnapped him, took him to some place, tortured him. Shot him in the head and body several times, cut him up, dumped him in acid.
Guy.
And that was it for Patrice.
In 1961. Do you know how old he was then?
No.
Just 35 years old.
He was as old as Tosh. No, Tosh is not even 35. So when he was assassinated, guess who got into power?
José
Désiré Mobutu. And he now changed his name to
Mobutu Sese Seko Kukumbendu wa Zambanga.
It means the rooster that goes conquering from village to village.
It means leopard.
But
it's leopard.
It's the rooster, man.
Rooster
that goes conquering. Jogo.
Yes.
From village to village, Panda. 1960?
Yeah.
1 or 2?
62. 61, because that's when he died.
So this man changed the name of the country
from
DRC, which is Democratic Republic of Congo, to Zaire. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
He changed the name of the country.
Yes.
And then he ruled with an iron fist for the next 32 years.
Guy.
Iron fist. He built himself a palace in a place called Gabolite.
A palace.
Yo.
And he was one of the first Africans to own a yacht.
And a 747.
Guy, which sometimes was used to
What do you mean sometimes? Every week. It would land in Gabolite.
Yes, 747.
Every week a 747 would land.
Yes.
Bringing his suits and his champagne.
And he used to dress, those like asape. How do you call them?
Yes, those ones in Kinshasa.
Yes.
But you know, he was such a dictator. And everyone who opposed him was either exiled or killed.
Take it out.
By the way, there was a guy called Tshisekedi, yeah?
This new one?
His dad.
Eh?
Yes.
Was?
You know, he was trying to oppose Mobutu many times.
What happened to him?
Each time he would be defeated. But, you know, in the end he gave up. And this boy grew up in Belgium. That's where he grew up.
Also, he's a rich kid.
Nibabi.
I understand machungu ya
Ajui.
Your desire.
Anyway, let's fast forward.
Yeah.
1990s. Early 90s.
Yes.
The opposition is getting restless. And Rwanda and Uganda are saying, you know what? These guys are coming at us too much,
Yeah.
Wanatuchapa sana. Let's go into Congo.
Rwanda and Uganda.
Yeah. You know, after the genocide in Rwanda, and Kagame came in and saved the country. Okay, you know what? These guys, and they chased a lot of them into DRC, 1 million
of
Hutus
from
Rwanda. Were chased into DRC. So they kept chasing, and they said, hey man, there's no opposition here. So they arrived in a place called Kisangani.
Now these
rebels, these Kagame's rebels, they arrived in a place called Kisangani in no time.
What made them go into the Congo?
To chase the Hutus, who had started the genocide. So they had started the genocide.
So as they chased Kisangani.
Yeah, big, huge town on the mighty Congo River.
Yeah.
And they said, wow, this was easy. Why don't we march to Kinshasa? Right? 2,000 kilometers away. And these were kids. I mean, these were child soldiers mostly.
Yeah.
What do I call Batoto?
Bakongo.
Wearing gumboots and carrying AK-47s.
And M16s.
Bus. So from Kinshasa, they started going. And the whole world said, who are these rebels? Who's their leader?
And they said we are leaderless.
We are Gen Z, those days.
Yes.
Right? And then a good friend of mine, his name is Buchizia Mseteka. He used to work for Reuters, a journalist. He was sent right in there to find out who their leader is. Oh, let me go back a bit. Let me go back. Kidogo.
Yeah.
In Uganda, when Museveni took over in 1986, with like 35 men and, it was a small band of brothers.
Yeah.
When he took over, his chief of military staff was a guy called Paul Kagame.
Really?
And then there was another guy they used to hang out with called oh God, can't believe it.
They never disappeared.
And they talk Tatu, something Tatu. Baba Tatu or something.
Baba Tatu. Si mali ya Mungu.
Apana.
Okay.
Papa Tatu.
Yes.
Right? So Buchi developed a relationship with Kagame, Museveni, and Papa Tatu. And they all used to hang out in Kampala in the early days. Fast forward, now Buchi is in Congo.
Yeah.
And he's trying to find out who's the leader of these rebels, these kids.
So Buchi is that friend of yours?
Yeah, the Reuters.
He used to hang out with the president then?
Yes.
And his former chief of staff, who's now Rwanda's president.
Correct.
As we speak.
Yes.
So he's sent by Reuters.
Yes.
To go find out who's leading these young soldiers.
Bas.
And then he goes.
And then, he befriends them, and they say, okay, we'll take you to him. We'll take you. So they're there in the bush, they're walking for days. I mean, they were walking like crazy. It's 2,000 kilometers from Kisangani to Kinshasa. They get to this camp. And Buchi's so tired, he just tells them, let's just stop, we need to rest. I've done, it's really crazy.
Yeah.
They said, no problem. By the way, our leader is in this camp. They said, oh, really? Do I get to meet him? He said, yeah, no problem. So they go into this house, And they say, so-and-so wants to meet you, Reuters, they want to interview, blah, blah, blah. He comes out. Guess who it is?
In the Congo.
Baba Tatu.
Guy.
Laurent Kabila.
That's Baba Tatu.
Yes. He used to be he used to own a brothel when he was in exile.
Yeah.
In northern Tanzania. Right on the border with DRC. He used to own a brothel.
So he wasn't very different from Mobutu Sese Seko, because Mobutu was also very extravagant.
True, but then this man was surviving, you know. Look at Sabina Joya. So now he's the leader of the rebels. And don't forget that story where Museveni, Kagame, and him used to hang out every weekend in Kampala.
Yeah.
So it looks like he had been prepped or propped up
to take over.
Bus. May 17th, 1997, the Batotos reach Kinshasa. Mobutu has to negotiate an exit. They fly in Nelson Mandela to a place called Point Noir.
The same port.
The same port.
Yeah.
To negotiate Mobutu's exit because it's, you know, it's unpalatable. He cannot stay.
Yeah. He's going to be taken out.
Kabisa, they'll kill them all.
Yeah.
In the end, he agrees. He flees to the airport, Njili Airport. He's flown to Morocco in exile. That's where he goes. Morocco. And by the way, he would stay there for a couple of years and then die. And guess what? He was buried in a common grave in Morocco, in Rabat.
He lived like a king but died like a dog.
There you go. Common grave in Morocco. They wouldn't even bring his remains back.
No.
In the meantime, Kabila takes over. They have a big celebration on the 30th of June, which is their Independence Day.
Yeah.
We were at the stadium called 30 Juin.
30 Juin.
30 Juin, meaning 30th of June.
Yeah.
And he was the people's president. Then, people's president. They loved Kabila in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then after a while, he got a little too comfortable. He stopped listening to Museveni and Kagame.
Yes.
He stopped listening to America and all the donors. And he says, you know what? We will do it our way.
Yeah.
Kumbe. Other people had plans.
The same way he had planned before ousting Kukumbendu.
Wazabanga.
Yeah. Pia yalikuwa napangiwa.
Oh, sio? January 16th, 2001.
2001.
I'm in South Africa.
You are from one.
Okay. We get a message, news is coming out of Congo.
Yes.
That Kabila's been shot.
Yeah.
Laurent Kabila.
Oh, the whole.
He's been shot.
Yes.
But, or there's a coup. I mean, there's so much news coming out. Those days, there was no social media. Huh?
No.
2001, there's no social media.
There was only something called MySpace.
Na fax. Na
Telegram.
Telegram, yes.
Yeah.
Vitu kama hizo. I mean, it was crazy.
Na landline kwa sana. Okay, mobile phones zilikuwa zimeanza kukuja.
Pole pole.
Kulikuwa na Alcatel na Nokia.
Bas.
Zilikuwa zinatamba sana.
Na ile ya Motorola.
Na Motorola ile ilikuwa WhatsApp.
Hello, Moto.
Your design.
Sio? So we get news from Kinshasa.
We being Reuters.
Reuters, yeah. And all, you know, all the agencies in South Africa.
Yeah.
So my friend Milton Nkosi,
who
was in charge of BBC then.
Yes.
In South Africa.
Yeah.
He says, you know what, guys? We have to go to the Congo.
Yes.
But there were no flights. All flights were cancelled.
Guy.
So guess what? We chartered a plane to go to the Congo.
Afoka.
No, man. I think it was a 737.
Guy.
There was at least 100 of us.
Yes.
Different agencies, eh?
Combine efforts.
Everyone contributes to Kachipi.
Mligawa. Mlichanga mwenye tunachanganga kununua mzinga. Mlichanga.
So we flew from Johannesburg to a place called Caprivi Strip. On the Namibian-Botswana border. Right there.
Yes.
Beautiful place.
Nice.
That was our first stop. And then from there we flew to Luanda in Angola.
See Luanda ya kwetu. Hapa Bunyore.
See up in Western. In Angola.
Yes.
Because the pilots had to call in advance to get permission to land in Kinshasa. And we stayed in Luanda for a while, and they wouldn't get permission. But we said, let's just fly to Congo, Brazzaville, next door.
Yeah.
Let's fly to Brazzaville, and we'll make our way into
Congo.
Kinshasa.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what we did. So we flew into Brazzaville, landed, and now everybody went there. By the way, if you take a pirogue, or a boat.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's called a pirogue.
Pirogue in French. If you take a boat from Brazzaville to Kinshasa, it's 10 minutes on the Congo River.
Wow.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
But with people like us, we were carrying equipment that was about 200 kilos.
Yes.
If you put that on a pirogue,
it will capsize.
Bro, you're going to sink.
Yes.
So we had to wait for a while until we get a plane that had been given permission to land in Kinshasa, which happened. It took like 3, 4, maybe 5 hours. But we finally landed in Kinshasa.
Yeah.
It was too late to go into the city because at Njili Airport, it's like 50 miles from Kinshasa.
Yeah.
So we spent the night at the airport. Next morning, we hired some cars, got into the city, and the news was there. Kabila had died from gunshot wounds by his bodyguard.
Your design.
Imagine.
Barely 20 years old.
The city, Kinshasa, was in shock.
Really?
Oh.
Were the people saddened?
For the most part, yes, I would say. For the most part. Outside Kinshasa, it was different, right?
Yeah.
But in the city itself, there was a lot of sadness. Watu walilia sana.
He was loved, eh?
For the most part. But he was, I think he lost the plot at some point.
So you see, they say, give a man money and power, and his real character shows.
So anyway, they bury him a few days later. We were all there. The presidents, Museveni, they all came. Some of them were booing Museveni, by the way, and the Angolan president, because they
thought they had something to do with it.
And then they decided who could take over from Kabila.
Where?
Who is the most appropriate person who could take over?
There was none.
There was nobody. Except...
Not even Kofi Olomide.
Au Papa Wemba.
Au Papa Wemba.
Au Franco. Au Ule Mugire.
Mugalu.
Ule Ali Dipotiwa.
Kanda Bongo man.
Si Uongo man.
Bongo man, Bongo good.
And they said the only person who could take over from Laurent Kabila
is Joseph
Kabila, who was the head of the military then.
Where? Watu walikuwa na tabia same sana.
Bro.
Yani presidents and their children wanapangwa.
Dynasty.
Your design.
Dynasty. So they elected him, or rather they selected him to become president.
Yeah.
And he became president. I'd interviewed him several times. So
he was barely 30, I think.
He was barely 30, yeah.
Yeah.
He was a very cool guy. He loved PlayStation. He loved motorcycles. He loved, driving around the city at night.
Ladies, of course.
He had a G-Wagon one time. We went on a drive.
In his G-Wagon? That's where you got the inspiration to buy yours.
Sort of.
Where did you go to and who did you meet?
We went to a park. He drove us to a park. But when I got into the G-Wagon, I looked behind. Guess what?
Guns.
RPG, AK-47,
yes.
Glocks, was all grenades. I said, if this car was hit by something, tutalipuka sisi sote.
Meisha.
Kabisa.
Your design.
But he was a great guy, man. I liked him. Yeah, he was cool. It's just that
he wasn't mature enough.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Something.
For how long did he rule?
He did his 2 terms.
Okay.
He did his 2 terms and he left. He left in the end.
And right now he's...
And Mobutu's son tried to run, by the way, in between, eh? Mobutu's son.
These M23
yes.
guys
yes.
originally are from Rwanda.
Yes.
But
Kagame denies that. He says they are
not Rwandans. Yeah. These guys are not Rwandans.
He says they are Tutsi from Congo.
Yes. They are Congolese.
And Ramaphosa got really pissed off.
Yes.
And Kagame said,
I told you it's going to be a tooth for a tooth. Or a knife for a knife. I'm ukipenda ngume kwa ngume.
And that's why we are where we are today.
Crazy. But it's resources.
But listen, you know what M23 said the other day?
What did they say?
We're going to march to Kinshasa.
Guy.
Just like those guys did in 1997. 30 years later, they want to do the same thing.
Guy. Wataka kwenda kutoa mtu.
Bus.
Makosa sana.
That Congo.
Yes.
Is a blessing and a curse.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
And Uganda and Rwanda, they're so thirsty for the minerals.
And you know they seized Goma, waka advanced towards Bukavu.
Bukavu tena?
Wame advanced towards. So M23 is part of the alliance for what do you call that? Alliance
Francophone.
Something like that. So,
Francophonie.
An anti-government alliance led by, Nanga?
I saw him the other day.
Colonial. He's a former Congolese elections chief. He's now likely to lead M23's parallel government. You see, parallel government. So wakifunika tunafunika. Wakianika tunaanua. Angolan president, Lorenzo. Anasema anataka immediate exit of Rwandan forces from Goma. South African president, your brother,
Ramaphosa.
Yes, and I blame Rwanda for escalating the conflict. And then Kagame, I may deny these accusations. I can state that South African troops were a force that was in aid the Congolese army.
Why is it called M23? Is there?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. And it was once posed, I think, by a journalist sometime. I don't remember the answer. I'll be honest.
Was it formed in March 23rd?
I don't know. I don't remember the answer, but it means something.
The March 23rd movement.
Hey,
It's abbreviated as M23.
March 23rd, eh?
And it's also known as the Congolese Revolutionary Army. If you like it, Armée Revolutionnaire du Congo.
Banyamulenge.
Banyamulenge.
Why do they head the UN? The Congolese?
Because of the mineral resources, my friend. Kila siku, several planes take off from deep inside Congo.
Planes.
So
wametengeneza mahali ndege zinaweza zikalanda lakini hakuna barabara ya malori kupitia.
You know, obviously that's one of the reasons. Unaona?
Yes.
But you know, the UN has the largest peacekeeping mission in the world in Congo. I was telling you earlier on, MONUSCO. The largest in the world. So you can imagine what goes on in there.
Crazy.
Look at Ukraine.
It's an economic affair.
Sure. Only dough, bro.
And whenever a situation makes a party worse off, it does make another party
better off.
So third world countries ndio tunasuffer.
Kwa sababu tuko na
ujinga.
Masi mingi.
Ujinga.
Kichwa.
Madini.
Your design. Most of the richest countries are the poorest. How is that?
Look at Congo, DRC.
Na kuna mataifa mengine ukaibuni hawana mali popote wanachimba dhahabu, but they have the largest reserves that they have in the world.
Imagine.
Na wana gold site hata moja, for instance. Unapata diamond
na sio platinum.
You say platinum. Mataifa ya Kiafrika ndio wameblessiwa sana with underground.
Don't we export gold?
Your design.
Sisi. Inatoka wapi?
Kayega.
Hata kwetu Viga kuna dhahabu ndogo ndogo.